Good Wednesday evening, and welcome to This and That, the podcast. I'm your host, Joe Gilloway, and along with my partner, Bill Bostic, we hope to bring you guests and topics you'll find fun and captivating from the worlds of local politics, arts and leisure, pop culture, and beyond. This and That, the podcast is supported by the Robert H. Hoke Post 272 American Legion on North Mountain Road, Team PA, AAU basketball, and Rickabaz Electric. We'd like to thank these great local businesses for their continued support of our podcasts and the area in general.
Yep.
All right. So, Bill, how are you?
I'm doing good. I like to be busy. I'm very busy, so can't
You
complain.
are. You're always very busy, Bill. So, you know what's coming next, right? What episode number is this?
I'm very certain about this. This is number 24, Joe.
Very good. All right.
Yeah.
We're getting better. All right. So you do know this is the People's Podcast, right, Bill?
That's what I've heard many times.
From me, right? Not from anybody else. It is the People's Podcast because we do have a comment section where the viewers can come in, they can make comments, they can ask questions, and I go, kind of whole hog trying to get all those questions and comments read on the air. I take them very seriously. And whoever's watching now or watches later on or tomorrow or whenever, please, if you have topics or guests that you think may interest the local community, let us know about them or it. We'd love to have your help. So that's why it is the People's Podcast. Our disclaimer is the views and opinions expressed on this show are those of the participants who voice them and do not necessarily reflect the positions held by This and That, the podcast as an entity, Bill or myself, or the sponsors who support the show. How about who are we sourcing, Bill? Who's upcoming? Do you have any that you're trying to bring in?
I'm anxious to get as many Lower Paxton Township supervisor candidates on here as we can get.
We'd love to.
Yeah.
And I know that we're not CNN or Fox News or anything like that, and we're far, far from it. But I do know that some of the supervisors watch the show regularly.
Okay.
They've told me.
Yeah.
So if you're a supervisor candidate and you're watching this show, please come on. We will be your friend. We're not trying to set anybody up or kind of knock them down or anything like that. We'll give you the opportunity to speak to people who may end up voting for you or who support you probably hope to have. So we do have Lower Paxton Township Supervisor John Najim. He is, I'd say, committed. He said that he'd come on one of these days soon. So we have Mr. Najim. And I was told, we were calling him Najim, John Najim. I think it's Najim.
I think the N is silent, Joe.
Okay, well, all right. Now I have two stories. So either way, we'd love to have him on. And then how about first-term Pennsylvania State Senator Patty Kim? Trying to get her on here in the upcoming weeks or months.
Justin Douglas.
First-term Dauphin County Commissioner Justin Douglas. And then, Bill, we're going to try something new. All right?
What's that?
See this guy here?
Yeah. Who is he?
He's
a coach.
Newly approved by the board, Central Dauphin School District Board, boys basketball coach Seth Leonard. He was just approved last night, or at least officially approved last night by the board. You and I were at the meeting, and I think we're going to do kind of a crossover thing with Coach Leonard. I have, of course, Linglestown Gazette Sports, which you and I started together, I think about 10 years ago now, 9 or 10. And I think we're going to do a This and That podcast and have it on This and That and Linglestown Gazette Sports at the same time because he is a Central Dauphin coach. And I just think it's important enough that we do it that way. So I think will be a cool idea. Those that don't follow the sports end of it can watch it on This and That, the podcast, and vice versa. So congratulations to Coach Leonard. I think the community.
Where does he come from? What is he a local guy?
He's a York County guy.
Okay.
He played at York, William Penn. That's where he played. And then he played college, I believe, in the PSAC somewhere, Pennsylvania State Athletic Conference, District or Division II. I heard he was a great player, like really, really good player. Then he got his start at Dallastown as an assistant, and then coached a couple years, 2 or 3 years at Susquehannock in York County. So he's got the credentials. I heard he's a fabulous leader of young men. Which you need. It's not just all about X's and O's and wins and losses. You want somebody that knows how to lead the kids, how to lead the men, young men.
Well, the thing I noticed that he won me over with that photo. I mean, he looks like he's a really positive guy, happy to be here, all that kind of stuff.
Let's look at it again. Yeah, he looks ready. he looks friendly and he looks ready. He's all signs indicate that he's a great guy. So congratulations to Coach Leonard and his family, and to the boys basketball community at Central Dolphin. All right, so Bill, let me just tell the folks who we're going to be bringing in here momentarily from Lower Paxton Township. Kevin Rowland, he's a traffic safety officer, I believe, because I tried to listen to the meeting that you sent me to a week or so ago. I think he has 24 years in with Lower Paxton Township. And then Fritzy Schreffler, I believe she also has 24 years in at PennDot as a safety press secretary. And we're going to find out exactly what these folks do in these roles. And then Chris Flad is a District 8 traffic engineer. And Bill, these are real guests tonight. Not that we've had fake guests or guests that weren't real, but I mean, for what we're talking about, which is the roundabouts, let's just say the roundabouts, the two in Linglestown, and specifically the one on the square. These are some people that know what they're talking about. So
I've been dealing with the people in town here in Lower Paxton Township that were involved in working with PennDot. But this is great that we have.
This is a step up. This is a step up from your people, Bill. I guarantee you that. Okay,
so my people are great. My people are great, but this is a little different type of thing.
There's Fritzy Schreffler, Chris Flad, and Kevin Rowland. Hi, everyone.
Good evening.
Sorry to drag you through all that. That's kind of how we start the shows, and just to let people know what's going on outside of tonight's show. And what we'll do is ask you to just kind of, in a few words, tell the folks watching what you do in your roles. So let's start with Fritzy Schreffler. Is it about 24 years in at PennDot? Is that correct?
Oh, can't hear you. No, something happened to the mic.
Something happened between 5 minutes ago and now.
Let's move on.
Let's move on to Chris Flad from PennDot. Chris, you're a District 8 traffic engineer. What is District 8?
District 8 is actually the local PennDot region that we are all in. District 8 consists of 8 counties around Harrisburg. So that would include Adams County, Cumberland County, Dauphin County, Lancaster County, Lebanon County, Perry County, York County. Did I miss any? So essentially the 8 counties surrounding Harrisburg area.
Okay. All right.
As district traffic engineer, I'm responsible for much of the traffic operations, traffic safety within my 8 counties. Some of my duties include establishing speed limits, evaluating intersections for safety on state roads, overseeing the traffic management center, which are the eyes and ears of the region. We're very proud of that, and also oversee the traffic signal section. So it's quite a wide umbrella that I'm covering here in our District 8 office.
Okay.
Sounds like it.
Okay.
All right,
I think I'm good now. There I am. I'm sorry, technology is not my friend.
Well, it's not mine either. So I'm never going to get upset with anybody for
And
for
I
that.
was talking to you before, so
Well,
I
yes,
don't know.
you were. So Fritzy, what does the traffic or safety press secretary at PennDot do? What does that encompass?
Well, first, I'm surprised Chris isn't laughing because that gives me a raise if I'm a press secretary. I'm a press officer, but they make some differences. What I do is I call myself the kinder, gentler, softer side of PennDot. So Chris deals with kind of the hard side of things with, actual safety improvements, engineering side of things. I do more the soft side, which is education. So I do media relations and education, and it is anything to do with driver behavior. So I kind of say it's birth to not quite death, because we go from child passenger safety all the way through mature driving,
Right.
and any kind of driver behavior. So road rage, aggressive driving, impaired driving, all of that falls under what I do.
Okay, great. So, Bill, you hear that? She handles road
I
rage.
got
so
it.
you better relax a little bit.
Well, I want to let you know, Fritzy, when I was doing reporting, I was working with Greg Penny. So I was
Yes.
asking him technical questions for the most part.
Yeah,
So
I worked with Greg for a long time.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
let's move over to our Lower Paxton Township participant, Mr. Kevin Rowland. Kevin, what do you do? I know you're a police officer, but you have kind of some specificity to your role, right?
Yes, yeah, I've been police officer for Lower Paxton for 24 years now, and I've been in the traffic safety unit since 2004. So for about 21 years, I've been in traffic safety unit.
Okay, good. So, and you're another one. I reported back to Bill that I met some pretty bright people there that day, and Kevin, you're another one that I could tell you didn't say a whole lot, but I knew you knew what you were talking about. So we were kind of in good hands there that day in that meeting. So, Bill, I'm going to turn it over to you. This is kind of like your baby. You've been reporting on this these roundabouts for quite a while now. You live near them. You travel through them. So, ladies and gentlemen, Bill Bostic.
Yeah, Mr. Roundabout, right?
Yeah, Mr. Roundabout.
But Kevin, a quick question for you: when the traffic unit you're with, is it patrolling or is it more than that? As far as what's happening on the streets in Lower Paxton?
Yeah, we supplement the patrol unit, so we're
Okay.
working normal hours, usually 6 a.m. to midnight. Those are the hours we normally work. But our primary duties are more so focused on, initially when I started was crash investigation and traffic enforcement. It's since evolved, and now we do a lot more traffic studies. If someone has an
Okay.
issue with, if they want better signage or changes in traffic patterns, we do a study to see if it's warranted and
Okay.
if it's needed. Also, the last 3 years, I've been with the Motor Carrier Safety Assistance Program that's run through the state police. That's the truck enforcement, where I
Okay.
stop the large trucks and inspect them for making sure the drivers are permitted to be driving those types of vehicles, and also the overall safety that the equipment is safe also.
Okay. I thought I thought it was going to be wider than just looking for violations, watching what goes on in the streets. So, yeah, where I want to start out is, this roundabout's been in use since 2011. So it's 14 years at this point. So there's some history here, and from your folks' perspective, I wanted to have you evaluate just how, from your perspective, the roundabout is performing at this point in time after all these years, just to see where we're at, to get a baseline from your angle. Chris, why don't you start off, since that sounds like your area.
Sure. I didn't run the actual crash data, so I apologize for not getting the crash data. But
Okay.
In general, roundabouts are safer. The crash severity is usually much less, and with these two roundabouts being one of the first two within our district, there's a little bit of growing pains for the locals and everyone who uses them. One uphill battle that we inevitably fight is the old nightmare stories about traffic circles. Those that are familiar with driving around in New Jersey, you essentially couldn't go more than 3 minutes without hitting a traffic circle and being stuck at a traffic signal at a traffic circle just to get into the thing. So there is certainly some there's a little bit of pushback and concern about that. But once we get through the design process and the construction process, we've experienced is there's very little complaints afterwards. So
Okay.
There's a little bit of fear involved leading up to it, but once people drive it, once people understand how it operates and how you need to enter and exit the roundabouts and right-of-ways issues and things like that, it's really definitely more efficient, and we like I said, we rarely receive any complaints after the fact on these things, which is it says a lot about it, because we brought the whole concept in from nowhere. We had to
Right.
change the thought process of the nightmare traffic circles of the past, and we think it's really been a positive thing. It works well. They're very relatively low to maintain compared to traffic signals, and people aren't stuck in traffic. They're just waiting their turn to merge into the circle. So it's a great thing.
Yeah, no doubt about that. Do you have anything to add, Fritzy, about what you've experienced so far, as far as the performance of this particular situation?
Well, this particular circle, and you mentioned Greg Penny, I remember standing out there in 2011 when we were first doing reporting about the roundabout and trying to educate the public on the changes. And it was a learning curve because the traffic on 39 was used to having the right of way. So people were just shooting right into the roundabout without checking to see if there was somebody else in there. And so that was a bit of a learning curve, but I remember Greg and I had people yelling at us that this was the worst idea ever, and it was going to be chaos, and people were going to get injured and killed, and and we were trying to explain how you have a traffic signal or a stop sign, people aren't paying attention, they run those, and that's when we end up with the T-bone crashes. It can be quite devastating. A roundabout is going to slow you down unless you're impaired or there's another force going on there. You get into it and you can't go more than 25 miles an hour in it. It is going to slow you down, and so it's going to allow traffic not to sit there. I mean, how many of your listeners, viewers remember sitting on Mountain Road and there was no stop signs on 39? So if you wanted to make a left-hand turn, you could be holding traffic up a really long time in order to be able to safely do that. And this has changed traffic in Linglestown.
Yeah, before I move over to Kevin, I'm going to, from my experience, all the locals that were involved in this talked about they wanted to slow traffic down in the village. Mm-hmm. And certainly when you get into that roundabout area, it's going to slow you down. You just can't barrel through there. But there's actually the project extended beyond the square and the second roundabout at the fire station. To the east, there was a couple of structures put in to try and get people to slow down. One, before you got into the village, to try and get people to slow down, where you have to go around a chicane or something, I think it's called. And another one going out of town, they put a chicane in. But I can tell you from walking to the coffee shop many times every week, that the speed coming into the roundabout is still pretty high.
Yes.
I mean, you have people going 40, maybe 50 miles an hour on occasions because there's a long stretch there to get there. Get to the roundabout. And so the traffic calming aspects certainly to the east don't seem to work. Coming from on the west side of town, I know there was discussion where when you come from coming into town from the west side, you get into a town area. So just the visual of having buildings on either side of you, they thought that would slow things down, and that may be working. I'm more familiar with the east side. But with that said, Kevin, what's your view in terms of the performance of the roundabout and the other traffic calming aspects of the project?
Yeah, like Fritzy said, it's really improved the traffic movement on Mountain Road because it was a through road on 39. If somebody wouldn't make a left, that would back up. And with the addition of Central Dauphin High School down the road, that's obviously increased the amount of traffic that goes up Mountain Road. And it certainly slows them down around the traffic circles because they are so small, and especially the one at Mountain Road where you have buildings on all four corners. You really have to slow to be able to see, where most of your traffic circles are kind of wide open. You can see for a while, which tends to not slow people down as much, but you really have to slow down. We haven't really seen hardly any crashes at the traffic circle. I know when it first opened, the one on the west side by the firehouse, we did have, I believe it was a drunk driver ran into the circle, but that was more because of their intoxication. But I can only recall maybe 2 crashes that I've handled, and both of them were just people not realizing who they're supposed to yield to and pulled into the traffic circle too early, and they were minor crashes. So it certainly helped with the severity of the crashes.
And if I can just interrupt a second, because I can almost feel Chris twitching a little bit. It's a roundabout, not a circle.
Correct. You're right.
There is a difference. If Chris wants to explain what the difference is.
Yeah. What is the difference, Chris? So everyone knows. What's a circle compared to the roundabout?
Well, usually traffic circles have other means of traffic control leading into them. Like I said, in Jersey, when they had them, is usually a traffic signal that would regulate traffic in and out of the circle. And roundabout is more of it's an all yield kind of situation where
Right.
when you're going to enter the circle, you're yielding to anyone that's already in there. And once you're in the actual circle itself, that's when you have the right of way to continue through the circle. You get in the direction that you're planning to go. So it's more or less it's like I said, more of yielding and less of a definitive traffic control like a signal would normally provide.
I know it's kind of nitpicking, but we like to make sure we're using the correct term, especially since this week nationally is Roundabout Safety Week.
Oh,
Yeah.
this week
Yeah.
it is. Okay.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
I thought it was last week. But
Oh, you know what?
it was
I
last
think it
week.
was last week when we did the press conference. I'm sorry, the days are running together.
Well, thank goodness, because I celebrated last week. So
I think next year we're going to actually have an event to celebrate this and have some fun with it. So,
hey, Bill, if I could jump in quickly.
Sure, go ahead.
About 3 or 4
Absolutely.
weeks ago, you had a what do you call that? A pop-up newsroom, and we sat right on the porch, the front porch of St. Thomas Roasters. And for those unfamiliar, St. Thomas Roasters is what, 2 or 3 kind of businesses off of the square, very close to the square.
Yeah.
And I kind of watched. We started at 6:30. I showed up around 6:15. I was there till around 8, so an hour and a half, hour and 45 minutes. And I kind of sat where I could watch the roundabout. And we weren't there to do that, but I just wanted to get a pretty good look at the way things flowed for, a better part of 2 hours. And other than one vehicle sounding their horn, I don't know what happened. Presumably because somebody was kind of being over yielding, which can happen.
Yeah.
They don't realize that they should keep moving. That was it. The traffic flowed beautifully.
I think we saw a truck go through there fine.
We saw a truck, and I said, everybody, trucks can, and that's for later in the show here. But we saw a full-size tractor trailer, what I would consider a full, just go right through with no problem at all. I took the right angle. So anyway, I had my first time, I've driven on roundabouts plenty, but the first time I ever kind of sat there and watched it in play in action, it was absolutely ideal. I mean,
Joe, it's a ballet of traffic. That's what it is, like a ballet.
Yeah, right, exactly.
I think we're going to start to move a little bit into the tractor trailer issue. That seems to be the big issue here, where we're getting all the damage and some traffic tie-ups at times. I wanted to find out from the PennDot side of things here. Have you ever had a project put in like this, where part of the plan was to restrict tractor trailers from coming through an area, or is this one unique in that regard?
This one was a little more unique. Besides it being one of the first couple within our district, there was also other factors leading into it prior to the design and construction of the roundabouts. That section of Route 39 already had some truck restrictions established on there. So when you have truck restrictions but allowing partial access in some cases, when you go to design the roundabout, all that comes into play as far as the degree and the extent of how you design it.
Okay.
Do you want to be accommodating, or do you want a specific design vehicle for it? So, and there's a really big difference. If it was a high truck traffic area, there'd be other design features that would be more conducive to truck traffic. But this area, being the local area that it is, and already established truck restrictions, that's why maybe the design is a little bit smaller than you might see in other areas.
Okay. Well, the next thing, Joe, would you put up that picture of the sign that has all the measurements on it, just so people can see that? Because these are primarily the signs that have been on Route 39, Mountain Road, to let drivers know. What the hardest thing I had reporting on this is trying to figure out what kinds of tractor trailers and trucks could come through here and which ones could not.
That was even something that I don't think everybody in that meeting a week or so ago had a good, including myself. We didn't all have a grasp on this. What is a 102-inch twin? What is a 102-inch trailer?
Yeah.
What is a truck that's over 28? And then the term I hear all the time, or the measurement I hear, is 53-foot truck. So that's kind of what Bill's driving at here, I'm sure. But I just wanted to make that clear, that I think that's a question that a lot of people have.
So the 100 and 2 inch. A reference would be actually the width of the trailer.
Oh, okay.
So that'd be
The
8.5
trailer,
feet.
okay.
And the significance of that is when the earlier restrictions were established, the standard trailer width was 96 inches, which is 8
Okay.
foot. So anything wider, that's what they were shooting for back years ago, because they were abnormal when the laws were in action back then, 20 years ago. So
Right.
the length, it refers to the trailer length. So if we're looking at a standard looking box kind of trailer, like a tractor trailer, the 28.5 feet would be meant to apply to what we call either a city trailer or half of a twin. So usually you'll
Okay.
see freight companies, they might have 2 trailers in a row that they're hauling. And the benefit of them being smaller ones is they're a little more maneuverable, especially when you're only hauling one of them. So you can get them in a little bit tighter spaces. So when we did the restrictions, we wanted to allow for that smaller, more maneuverable trailer.
Okay.
Yet restrict the larger ones, which obviously they're going to require bigger sweep angles and possibly cause damage.
And what's the 28.5 measurement, Chris?
That's essentially the length of the trailer,
Okay.
and how tractor trailers are, like standard box trailers. It's the width of the box that you see. It has nothing to do with the hitch underneath. It is actually the physical length of the trailer.
Of that one. So it has
Hey,
to be
Bill.
less than 28.5. Okay. What?
Bill,
yes,
can I
Bill?
jump in with a
Sure.
question from
Yep.
one of our viewers? This is Michael Chiha, and he wants to know, can you please explain the size difference of the roundabouts? Hershey roundabouts seem much smaller than Linglestown roundabouts. Thoughts on making both smaller? Kevin, is that something that you would, because it's kind of your land that we're talking about here, you oversee the township in some capacity?
Yeah, no, the roundabouts in Linglestown are much smaller than most any that I've ever seen. The ones down in Hershey, I was just up on 222 near Allentown. There's about 3 of them there. They're much wider. They have 2 lanes versus 1
Okay.
lane. So the ones in Linglestown are pretty much as big as that area is going to fit. And as I said, that's probably more beneficial because it gets people to slow down even more so.
That's good. Makes sense. Yeah.
So I don't know if he was, if he meant that Linglestown was smaller.
That's what I was kind of wondering too, Kevin. Yeah.
It feels more open when you're at the ones in Hershey too, because there aren't buildings on each corner. I mean, there was only so much that could be done in Linglestown without, the insurance company, the Eagle, the things are on each corner.
It would have been a lot of probably eminent domain issues
Yeah.
with trying to take people's land, some of their land. And
Yeah,
Yeah.
They said that there's actually more right away they could have taken, but they didn't because they wanted to keep it smaller to slow down the traffic.
Yeah.
So
The actual
Michael, thank you for that.
concrete
We appreciate it, Michael. Go
Yeah,
ahead.
the actual concrete might be small. It might be bigger in Linglestown. I didn't really recall how big the actual concrete is in the middle of the road there for the roundabout in Hershey, but the lanes going around are much bigger. And obviously, like I said, there's the apron, the flat part of that roundabout is called the apron. That's specifically designed for the trailers that are 28 foot. They can go up on there without actually getting the inner curb area.
And let's keep this in mind. We do not, or the township, I'm sure, and PennDOT, they do not want to encourage larger trucks to go through there because larger trucks weren't allowed through there even before the roundabout, right? There were restrictions before.
Correct.
So with those restrictions in mind, the roundabouts are plenty big enough.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yeah,
I
even
think
before they put the roundabout in, for a 53-foot trailer trying to make a left turn from Linglestown on a mountain or vice versa, still would have to go into the oncoming lane and they wouldn't be able to safely make that. So I think that's why the restriction was probably there before. All the 24 years I've been there, it's been restricted. So
And then
And I think that's
Kevin,
what
go ahead, Fritzy.
I think that's what you're seeing as the problem. It's not the people who are on 39 that are going and continuing on 39.
Right.
It's those who are coming on Mountain Road and they're attempting to make that left, so a 3/4 turn, or do a complete U-turn on that. That's where you're ending up with a lot of the problems. Well, no, I guess that would happen on 39 too. If somebody wanted to go to Mountain Road, it's those 3/4 or your complete turns that are really the problem.
Right.
Yeah. If you look at
Another thing that makes a difference is actually the design.
Chris.
So when we're looking at the roundabouts in Hershey versus roundabouts in Linglestown, it's the splitter islands. Those are the median islands when you're actually approaching the roundabout. The ones at Hershey are a little bit more wider and longer, so they have a little more traffic calming. They're pushing the motorists towards the outer side of the road, which is going to be the larger radius of the roundabout. So they're coming in at a more efficient angle to navigate the roundabout. So while the actual circle, it's part of it, itself might be similar in design size wise, the splitter islands do make a difference in helping regulate and control the amount of traffic and the efficiency of it going into the roundabout.
Yeah. And we got another comment here from Kevin Shutt, an answer, a question a lot of people have asked about, including myself, talking about getting rid of the flowers, reducing that vegetation area would allow trucks to get through there a little bit easier. They have more apron to get on. I know that there's no recommendation at this point to do anything to that island or in the roundabout. But what would be a problem of reducing the vegetation area and widening out that apron area? What would cause that not to be a good suggestion?
Well, in theory, if you were to do that, and I haven't driven through it recently, or I don't remember when I drove through it last week, but if the flowers, I assume they're up on the curb in the center, so removing them, you're still going to have the curb, and the curb is obviously.
Well, no, I think the issue is they're trying to reduce the diameter of that area that the flowers are in, make that smaller.
Wouldn't that just encourage trucks that don't belong through the roundabout to go through the roundabout if they know they're going to fit?
Yeah, you're sort of reverting back a little when you were to do that, because you're sort of pulling away the benefits of the roundabout itself.
Yeah.
We've already addressed the fact that the roundabout is big enough. Eric Kessler said they're 160 feet in total diameter. If the roundabouts are big enough already, then why would you expand them to encourage larger trucks to come through when that's not what you want? Am I speaking out of turn or out of line here? Does that make sense?
I completely agree there. And when we were out there last week and taking a look at the damage that was done, it's the curbing. So it doesn't even look like they're really trying to even swing it wide when they're coming through from Mountain Road. They're running up over the apron. They're running right up over the curb, over the plants that you have in there, taking our signs down, and you can fix that. And a couple days later, somebody does it again. And so I'm not even sure. I mean, you'd have to bring it in almost to the flagpole there. Is how far these trucks are coming through.
And then they'll just go faster if they know they have more room.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah. Well,
yeah, it's usually the case. It's usually the physical restrictions are the driving factor in reducing speed, whether it's on a roundabout or on a roadway itself.
Yeah, I think it's come down to the fact they were trying to prevent these trucks from getting in there, and that's where the signage and different things we'll talk about in a few minutes come into play. Now, PennDOT's already done one thing. Joe, if you put that sign back up, the little orange flag.
The sign with the little orange
flag.
Diamond,
the orange diamond on top.
That's it. This is actually the best sign I've ever seen, about nothing over 55 feet. I understand that. But yeah, the thing that's new are the flags that you guys put up. So it's to draw attention to these signs, I believe.
Yeah, that's what it's intended to help.
Yeah, I don't think we put them up though.
Yeah, I'm not thinking those don't look like typically what we do is a diamond shape that goes on the top of the sign to draw attention to it. So I'm thinking that maybe somebody locally is trying to help.
Yeah, what Fritzy's referring to would be What we would do is it's another standard sign blank. It's an 18-inch square, orange, rotated to be in a diamond pattern, and we call it a conspicuity plaque.
Conspicuity.
So that would be the word of the day.
It's our big word, conspicuity. So it's nice and bright. So
that's the biggest word that's ever been used on this show in 24 episodes.
Wait till you have us back to talk about retroreflectivity.
We will. We will.
Yes.
Let's go through a few things regarding the signs, because in my evaluation that was really a shortfall of the original plan. The signs obviously have not worked. A few years ago, I went out to try and find them, and just driving in a car at regular speed, at times I missed them. I mean, they just weren't very visible, and they clearly don't work. So there's a plan. You're working on a plan, or you have a plan to put new signs out there. Before we talk about 39 and Mountain Road, has there been any thought to putting any signage up on 81 and Route 22, the major highways that are sort of surround Linglestown, as a warning before they get off the road?
When we consider things like that, we have to think about the target value of that.
Okay.
Is there an actual real benefit to doing that? Because once you get to signing at a highway level, an interstate lookalike level, whether it's 81 or 22, the size of the signs go up dramatically. So something like that to give a heads up for a really small amount of motorists at the much higher costs of the signs involved, because they are special mount. They're heavier duty mountings, more metal and larger costs. So you're talking about $10,000 to $15,000 for an installation for one sign.
Okay.
Of that type. So those are the things we kind of have to weigh the benefit cost to that, while still, in a certain aspect, we're taking guesses, because we're like, well, how many truckers are really truly coming down here, and will it have any benefit? And then if there is a closure that forces them off the highway, whether it's at 39 or not, whether they're trying to look for another way, once you have a closure in the area, it usually overwhelms the local corridors.
Right.
To the point where if you have signs or not, the truckers, are more likely to take a chance, because if there's 50 of them coming through, you can't pull over 50 trucks. So that might also be driving their decision during that point.
Okay, so it doesn't sound like there's enough value you can find in doing that at this point, at least at this point. So I think that's what you're saying, Chris, right?
Yes, and there's also to ensure the proper location to do it, especially on the highway when you're driving 55 miles an hour. The sign spacing of any signs you have out there has to be significantly farther apart for motorist comprehension. So are there areas where something like that could be established with reasonable target value, and without taking away from other signs, which might be more important to all the motorists? So those are all the things that we're trying to balance when we look at things like this.
I think that Bill, I think the first thing I said to you when I was kind of reporting on what I had witnessed at that meeting was most of the solution eggs, so to speak, are in the signage basket at this point. Is that correct, everybody?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Then that seemed like that's the objective, at least initially, and it really should be the solution. If the drivers are complying, if they're going at the right rate of speed, if they're not taking unauthorized trucks through there, that should hopefully be all it takes. Let's hope, right?
Well, unfortunately, we know that people don't read signs. They don't read speed limit signs. I know, but I think by us putting out more signs, putting them further back is going to help Kevin and the people that he works with then to be able to say, you passed 4 signs just to this point, and you're not allowed on here. And Kevin, I don't know, when you guys actually stop these trucks, what is their excuse?
Most of them tell me they didn't see the signs. Mm-hmm. Some of them say they do, and they didn't have anywhere to turn off, where they could turn off at Piketown Road, where it's out by Central Dauphin High School there, where
Right.
it's lighted. That would be pretty much the last place they could turn to avoid coming through the roundabouts there. So, but truck drivers do have, or they can have, special GPS units that specifically tell them that the restricted road's coming up. Or I had stopped a driver a couple weeks ago, and he told me he didn't see the signs, and I pointed to his GPS that had a red band across the top that said no trailers over 28.5 feet. And I said, well, that would have told you there.
Oopsie daisy.
So yeah, that's, I know from our perspective, that's what we're looking to get, are just maybe bigger signs and at an area where they can turn off and be seen. They can see them and then have a side road to turn off of, so they don't come down. And even at Piketown Road, even if they do get into the zone, because they're already in the zone at that point, then at least Piketown Road, this is your last chance to turn. And if then they continue on, then it's like, well, there's really no excuse at that point.
Can you, Kevin and Bill? Bill, I'm not trying to hijack your show.
That's
your show
okay.
here, but while it's on my mind, Kevin, you talk about, you just said about the last place to turn would be Piketown Road.
That's a big issue. That's a big issue.
There's three other roads. We're not going to talk about the short stretch that goes up to the church, but where's like the last place to turn on the west side, like towards Harrisburg, towards the river, and then the last place to turn up Mountain Road?
Okay. Yeah, if they're driving eastbound, so away from Harrisburg, they're coming eastbound into Linglestown Road. There's a sign posted at Progress Avenue saying 3 miles ahead, and there's also one at Colonial Road that's saying 1 mile ahead. So those are the two. They're called advance warning signs, that this is the route, this is your warning, and where you can turn. That, okay, it's a mile ahead, so you should know, unless you're making a delivery within the next mile, you need to be making that turn to go down these other state roads.
Hey, Kevin, is there a sign on prior to Piketown Road when they're heading west?
Yes,
that
there's
would be
two
their last
signs.
chance.
There's two. Well, there's one advance warning sign out past Fairville Avenue. I think that's a 1/4 mile ahead sign, and then the actual sign where the zone starts, which is at the Houck company.
Yes.
So those signs.
Yeah, I can tell you, I never saw the one by Fairville. I've never seen that one.
Yeah, that one, there's trees starting to grow there, and frankly, there's really nowhere to turn after that, because at the Houck company, they have big signs, no trucks. They don't want trucks turning around there. So I'm not sure if there was a sign prior that went down and wasn't realized to be replaced. And then going to Mountain Road restriction is no trucks over 55 feet in length. That the purpose of that is to allow the smaller trailers to get up to like the Turkey Hill and the Eagle Hotel to make deliveries there. But there's an advanced warning sign there in front of the American Legion. That's the advanced warning sign. And then the next sign is at Bluestone Avenue, which is there where the Claremont Plaza is. That's where the zone starts. So trucks, though it's not preferable, they could make a left and go into the Claremont Plaza and turn around. And I've seen a truck driver actually do that.
I've heard a lot of arguments or justifications. Well, the truckers, they don't see the signs. They don't read the signs. But, when I was 16 years old and I got my license, and I'm not trying to be a whatever here, I was told you have to pay attention to signs, no matter who you are. I can't go down a one-way street and go, I didn't see the arrow, the one-way arrow. And now it's even, the ante is even up, that they're professional drivers. That's what they do for a living. So, and I get it. Sometimes you might, I don't know, disengage just for a split second and miss a sign. But when you have multiple signs like that, and it might be in your GPS or it might be in your trip plan or something like that, hey, stay away. There's just too many warnings and too many ways that this driver should know that they don't belong there.
Yeah, and that's why I think the conspicuity signs are good, because it really draws the attention, because you don't see those too much. You see them they're on 81 coming north on the West Shore. It drops from 65 to 55. So on the first 55 zone, they have those. So they're out of the ordinary. So that's another reminder that, hey, if there's a flashing light or there's the orange conspicuity sign, hey, this is something I should be paying more attention to.
And especially because I think a lot of these drivers are not regulars.
No, they're not from the area.
People who are local, because
Yeah.
I live on the West Shore, so I'm very familiar with the conspicuity signs that we have on 81. And I can tell you there are very few people that are commuting to work who are paying attention to that, unfortunately.
Yeah, they should know. And that's what with the signage that helps with drivers that are unfamiliar with the
Right.
area, which for the truck drivers, that's probably 95% of them. That the vast majority when I stop them is because 81's backed up, so they're
Yeah.
exiting off at 39 and either go right on 39, which is state road, or you go left to 22, and so they'll go to right and not necessarily see the sign. And to try to reduce violations by enforcement isn't going to be as effective because the drivers I'm stopping are from California and Washington and Minnesota. They're never going to be through town again. They just ran into a problem and were looking for a way to keep on rolling, and that's the way they came. So,
Which makes
Yeah,
the
well-
education side of things more challenging.
Right.
And conspicuity, for those unaware, is easily noticed, I guess, is layman's terms. You
Yeah.
know, a conspicuity.
On that point, on that point, before we get beyond this, is that some people have called for that last chance sign, in advance of getting into a place where you have no options with a tractor trailer. As far as having that be more visible with LED lights or flags or something to draw attention that you're getting to a point where you're going to go through the roundabout. There's no way out. So is there any plan to make those signs more dramatic so they can see them and there's less of a chance they're going to blow right by them?
Well, yeah. Well, part of our approach here, and a little history about the signs that are out there. So,
Okay.
the original restriction, as I mentioned earlier, was based on the old STAA, which is Surface Transportation Assistance Act.
Okay.
Under those rules, that was when the truckers actually had a map to follow. The Department of Transportation published approved routes that trucks were to follow. So they had to research the routes. And under those rules, signs were not required.
Okay.
So the signs that are out there were standard at the time. So when there were heightened issues, such as sort of like probably what we're in now, there was probably a call to the department that, hey, we're doing our best here. They're not following the maps. So that's why those signs are put out there saying, prohibited 1 or 2 inch, those signs, because they were the standard. Since Act 31 passed in 2018, where the vehicle code was updated to the modern sizes of tractor trailers, specifically the 102 inch is a standard now, and you'd be very hard pressed to find a 96-inch trailer that used to be standard. So when that was updated, also part of the Surface Transportation Assistance Act sections went away, so that after 2018, when it was passed, trucks can go anywhere unless it's physically signed, prohibited. So that's how those signs got there, and that's why they're here still, and why there might be perceived that there might be some missing, because they may have never been installed because we're thinking of the old rules. So when we do our evaluation, which we anticipate finishing up in about a month or so and trying to get these changes done by the end of the year, we're going to be updating those signs, the older signs that are all words out there, to the pictorial based, the ones that the easy to read ones, that picture of a truck with a line through it, what I call the Ghostbuster signs, with clear, specific wording as far as the no truck Ghostbusters with trailers over what such and such feet, whatever we confirm to be the reasonable restriction. So we will review where the restriction starts officially, and we'll also review what we call the last outs, like when we're talking about Colonial Road and things like that. So where it would be reasonable a truck be able to turn and not be entrapped into the Linglestown area, and then see how far out that approach logic winds up, whether we're giving several miles notice, things like that. So that's our approach there. So definitely more easily to understand by those who might not have a good grasp of reading English, especially a whole verse of English on a small sign. So we'll make them more uniform, make it clear to understand, possibly even a little bit larger size signs with the conspicuity plaques at key areas. So we're going to try our best here to get better words out to truckers to try to keep them out of the area.
So just because I know there's some people here who want to have this asked. So based on the rules that you have to live by and go by, as far as having LED lights on signs or something else that would ramp up the visibility, is that allowed or not, Chris?
Well, it's permitted. However,
Okay.
At this time, we're not looking into that directly.
Okay.
When we look at what those lights do, so it definitely raises attention. But with any other traffic control device, flashing lights in your face, if you're a daily user, you will grow accustomed to it, and then flashing lights won't even register on your radar anymore. And so when we use the flashing wigwags or flashing yellow lights, that's really to grab attention, and we want to maintain driver. We don't want driver complacency in that. So we're very cautious about where we install them. If it were up to me as far as where I spent money for devices like that, I would always try to do it in areas where there's real crash problems or where people are dying on a road. So it's better used elsewhere in this case, especially when we're going from a handful of older signs. The larger signs with better information on them, clear to understand, that could actually make a significant difference.
Okay. And one thing that was mentioned briefly, I work in the news business beyond what I do with Linglestown Gazette. And this show, there was an article it was coming out of the Reading area where they're trying to teach truck drivers with CDLs, the people who are not proficient in English. They're trying to help ramp up that thing up. And that's an issue out there that some of these drivers somehow, some way, are not very proficient in English. So the text-based signs don't work,
Yeah, we've seen that. And actually in our district down in York County off of 83, there is a warehouse that actually has multilingual signs. There's 4 signs on there. The standard do not enter for trucks, and then there was 3 others. I think one was French, one was Spanish, and I think one was Russian or Cyrillic or something. So it really stands out when you see it, and that's the reality. We do have truckers coming from all over all over the world, driving in our country, delivering goods and everything, and helping keeping the country moving. So it's definitely a valid issue.
So who foots the bill for these signs?
The sign updates that we're working on now will be paid for, by the department. So it'll be department funds putting out these updated signs.
The PennDot?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So
But
Eric
if you
Kessler
added
did
the
that.
lights,
Then
if
we
you
would pay
do
for
lights, that
Yeah.
would be the municipality would be responsible.
Okay. Eric Kessler. I was asking for Eric Kessler. He just said, will PSP be asked to help the no truck signage? LPT cannot absorb 100% of the policing cost. And then Michael Chiha wants to say, thank you to Officer Roland, Fritzy, and Chris for your time. So thank you, Michael, for being here and watching along with us. Go ahead, Bill.
I think that the really where we're at with the signage, it sounds like you guys have a plan. There's some updated rules you have to go by. You're looking at making some of them bigger, using pictorial stuff. We'll just have to see how it works. Hopefully, it'll put a big dent in the problem, but it's going to be a wait and see as after those things are in place, see just how it performs. Moving on. Go ahead.
Can I ask a question of you?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So if somebody runs into one of our guide rails or runs into one of our pieces of equipment and they are stopped, the department can come back and bill them for that. When your curbing is crumbled the way it is currently and running over any of the landscaping and the lights that you have out there, are you guys able to go back onto those truck drivers or their company for, getting funding back for that?
Yeah, Kevin.
That's a Kevin question.
Well, a lot of times we don't know who does it.
Okay.
Because unless we're out there. Now, in the last couple months, we've had issues with some oversized loads. That was just an anomaly. But we were able to follow up on 2 of them now that have crushed the curb. And the truck company, the first time the truck company paid, whether through insurance or them, to have the curb redone. And unfortunately, within a month, another large oversized load came up and crushed the curb again. And we made contact with them, got their insurance. So usually we can go back through the insurance. But unfortunately, a lot of times we're not seeing which truck is hitting the signs or the curbs.
I just thought it would help your residents know, that really the intent is not for you to absorb the cost. But
thank you, Fritz. That's a great question. And there are people that want to know about that.
Yeah, if we do know if we see it or it's reported that we can follow up, we do get the insurance information, and that usually covers it then.
We have a couple that lives on the square, and they've been pretty good at picking up what's going on. They may even help out. They probably have helped out to identify some of the trucks. Mm-hmm. But what I want to move on to as we move towards wrapping up here is you had mentioned it, Kevin, about the oversized loads that have come through over the summer. Some of them have been very problematic. And we have a picture of at least one of them. It was like, I think they call it a low boy.
Oh, let me see here. Okay.
Yeah, low boy hauling. Mm-hmm.
That came through, and I think that's what crushed the stuff on the west side, and maybe on the actually on the eastern side, and maybe the west too.
I mean, that looks like a crush waiting to happen there.
Yeah,
it doesn't look like there's any way that's going to go.
No.
And some of these, in at least one instance, the Ohmsbys who live on the square, the driver showed them the permit he had from PennDot to go through there. So, is that how big of an issue is that these permits are being issued for trucks like this that have no way of getting through that roundabout?
I think we've gotten that issue taken care of. That was as I said, that was a temporary issue over the summer. There was construction work going on 81 at nighttime. So when these trucking companies were looking to get the permits, when they get a permit, they have to give a route that they're going to take. So they're seeing that they weren't permitted on 81 during that time. They weren't really seeing it's just for nighttime. They thought it was all the time. So then they were taking 39 as an alternate route. And for whatever reason, it wasn't picked up that 39 was the restricted road. So those permits were being issued as soon as we realized that, because we never see the oversized loads, and then we were seeing them time after time. So we made some phone calls and spoke with employees in the permit office, and that's been taken care of then.
Yeah.
But you said over the long haul, this has not really been a problem. It's just this summer when we had that project out in 81. Is that what you're saying?
Correct.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
All
So once we're made aware of that, we were able to go in the system and put some flags in the system, because the oversized system really it supersedes any signing. So that's why when Officer Rowland encountered those people, they're shown in the permit. Technically, they're allowed to be there. Doesn't mean they should be there. And luckily, we were able to close one of the loopholes. We're also our central office recently revised their permit program, where they're still working out some of the bugs. Like, it's not a perfect release, so we're trying to identify some of these areas where these things slip through the cracks, and we're trying to button them up tight when we're made aware of them. So I believe in this case, we were made aware back in April or May, and we put the restrictions in our system for the oversize, and taking into account the time overlap from when a permit's issued till when it's invalid. We're pretty certain by the end of July that those should have stopped coming through there.
Okay. And let's move over to the other element that's gotten a lot of play publicly, is the enforcement side of the equation. And Officer Rowland, what if anything are you guys changing to try? I guess the idea is to get to a point where the word gets out in the trucking community that if they go through Linglestown, there's a good chance they're going to get written up and fined potentially. Is there any change you're making to how that's patrolled and moving forward now that this problem's come full public?
Yeah, I mean, normally most of our officers are, when we see more truck traffic on 22, then we kind of realize there's an issue. Especially doing the truck inspections, what I normally do is usually around 2 o'clock every afternoon when I'm working. I'll look at Google Maps, and if I see it's red on 81 there by 39, I head up there and start looking for trucks. And there's been times where even there was a Sunday night at like 10 o'clock at night, there was I believe it was a fatal crash on 81. So I knew it was going to be closed for a while. Now we actually posted officers, myself and another officer, at Piketown Road.
Okay.
And we just waited for the trucks to come down, and then we diverted them onto Piketown Road because we would prefer them not to come through and cause damage. As you said, we can only stop one or two trucks at a time if there's two of us out there, and then truck 3, 4, 5 comes down and something happens. So in cases like that where it's something severe, we will go out to Piketown and redirect them to avoid them coming down in the first place, to avoid that risk. So, but I know this summer I've been doing a lot more enforcement up there because it's becoming a bigger issue, it seems.
Okay. Right. Okay. And I think it's also tough, like you said, so many of these drivers are not from the area.
Mm-hmm.
They may, if they, I doubt if they stop at the truck stops, they're going to pick up chatter about this. But if you're a regular, maybe the word would get out that they've ramped up enforcement or doing something different now that this has become a bigger issue.
Mm-hmm.
So let's see what else I have on my list here. That pretty much wraps it up. Let me just go back to my last page here. Yeah, I had one of the suggestions I had given to the township to use if they wanted to was to explore surveillance solutions with cameras, potentially plate readers. But the word got back to me from Joe from the meeting last week that's just at this point been deemed too expensive.
That was my question at the meeting last week. I think it was the only one I asked. So yeah, and that's understandable that would be counterproductive in terms of the burden on the taxpayer, I would imagine.
Well, and kind of like what Chris said earlier, where do you spend your money?
Right.
And what's the benefit versus how often is it happening?
Yeah. I think it's important just to say this. I didn't say this out of the gate, but the township and PennDOT, they care. We care. Everybody here cares about this issue. And I witnessed that at that meeting. Was it last week or 2 weeks ago?
Last week, yeah.
It was at the township building, and it was a lot of bright, knowledgeable people there, like a lot of grown-ups in that room that really were getting together and trying to find solutions to this. And I think we hear a lot, and I think it's more because of social media, the prevalence of social media. Well, they don't care, and then they got to try this, they got to do that, and there's people that are professionals, from, again, both entities, PennDOT and Lower Paxton Township, that do care about this. They do this for a living, and they're trying to make it as safe as possible. They're trying to ensure that the middle of the roundabout doesn't get smacked around like it has been. They're doing all they can. So, and three of those folks are, and I'll close with this: Kevin Rowland, thank you, from Lower Paxton Township, Traffic Safety Officer. And then from PennDOT, we have Fritzy Schreffler, the Safety Press Secretary for PennDOT, and Chris Flad, the District 8 Traffic Engineer from PennDOT. So thank you so much for coming on. I mean, this is a big deal, and I think you guys all know that. In our township, this is a pretty big deal to people, and you guys are on it. So I really appreciate it, Bill.
Yeah, I also appreciate it because it's good to hear from. It's good to hear from the locals who are directly involved, but it's good to hear from the other side of the equation as well. And this discussion, we coined a new term, and that's traffic ballet. So they put that out there.
Good, Bill. I kind of like the
conspicuity.
But see, Chris has to come back on because he promised us another new big word. So down the road, we'll wait till early next year sometime, and maybe
and the other thing. Yeah. The other thing I want to put to bed, there's been so many people is that get rid of, during the comments this summer, get rid of the roundabout. Why didn't you put a traffic signal system in?
Not even close to sensible.
Yeah, that's just not going to happen.
Not even close to making sense there.
Your crashes would go up significantly.
Yeah, absolutely.
Plus the backups would show up again.
Yeah.
And actually, it doesn't do much for discouraging speeding because
right.
When you,
Not at
if
all.
there is a signal at, essentially where both roundabouts are, they would be talking to one another, to both signals, and during certain times of day, you'd want green lights on 39. So then that's not going to do much to curb speed. So
Right.
we love roundabouts. They provide such a good benefit, and slows people down, which the locals love. So the one thing you Joe and Bill, you both mentioned that we care. It's because we really do truly love what we do, and also we use the same roads that everyone else uses. We don't
Right.
have secret roads, unfortunately.
Great point. Right.
We have
Just
yellow
because you
lights
work
that
for
does not get
PennDOT,
us through
right?
traffic any faster.
You don't get
So-
your own
We
road.
get stuck in the same congestion everybody else does.
Right.
Yeah, the other thing I want to thank you guys for is whenever this thing did go public in July, it was about 64 days between the first thing that showed up in the press to the point whenever that meeting happened last week. So that's a very quick turnaround for a state agency to get out here. So we do appreciate that.
It is. Yep. All right. Well, we're going to bump you guys back out to the green room, and then whatever you want to do with the rest of your evening. Thank you, Fritzy.
Yep. Thanks.
Thank you, Chris. Thank you, Kevin, very much.
Thank you.
Bill and I will sit around here and bore the viewers just for a little bit longer here. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Have a great
Thank
evening.
you.
All righty.
Good night.
Good night.
All right, Bill. That was wonderful.
Yeah, and we had another good show in the books.
Yeah, man. Yeah, man. Well,
Hopefully,
there was I think 17 people in that meeting last week.
Okay.
And I mean, like I just said, there was a lot of bright, educated, knowledgeable people. But man, did I ever pick the right three? Didn't I?
Yeah, you did. Absolutely.
Well, Kevin, is it Kashiba, right?
Adam Kashiba.
Adam Kashiba. I'm so sorry. Yeah, that was Kevin rolling there. That was what they call a brain fart or a Freudian slip there. Adam Kashiba. He's like, nope. You want Kevin here. You got to have Kevin on. He's the one that knows this stuff. So yeah, we had the right people on, and we really appreciate them coming on and helping to clear. A lot of what we do on this show, Bill, is to help clear things up for the residents, the taxpayers, the community, and that probably went a long way towards doing that. If for whomever was tuned in and watching. So, Bill, what's going on with Linglestown Gazette? Let's close with that.
Linglestown Gazette. I tell you, the one thing that I'm finding out, Joe, there's the way we're set up right now. Primarily, I'm the main reporter. We have some other people sending things in. Jay Purdy, Bill Minsker, Linda Spots. But there's so many stories just in our township that I can't get to. I mean, there's so much happening. I get frustrated a little bit that I don't have the time to devote to really do a top-notch job.
You will. You'll get there.
Yeah.
You'll get there, Bill.
Yeah, and so that's one of the frustrations. But we're trying to move step by step. I just found a woman by chance at Panera Bread who could be a very, very big asset to what we're doing. She worked for PennDot as a publicist, the publicity or public relations area, and she might be able to help out with Facebook. Maybe it'll help out with some of the things with interacting with businesses. She unfortunately lost her husband back in March. Is looking for something to do. She's being encouraged to find something to do, and we just happened to meet at Panera Bread, and we're just getting started. So I'm looking forward to working with her. And these kinds of things are constantly happening. Has been constantly happening since I started back in March. So if you're into the Linglestown Gazette at all, look forward to bigger and better things as we move along and get more people helping out, more what I call the Pioneer Club members. We're pioneering a new way to deliver local news, and those who participate will be club members, and there'll be some benefits tied to that. So that's what's happening right now.
All right, so let's just throw this back up there one more time, Bill. Where is it? I'm looking for that. Thanks once again to the Robert H. Hoke American Legion Post 272, Team PA AAU Basketball, and Rickabaz Electric.
Hey, Joe, why don't you tell them what this Team Pennsylvania is a little more specifically?
It's an AAU basketball program. AAU basketball is the basketball that boys and girls play outside of their school. Mm-hmm. There's typically training tied to it. This is our top local AAU basketball team or program. It's run by some men. Greg Cavoli is the owner operator, but he's got a lot of people. Greg and his wife Andrea, but they have a lot of people helping them that just know basketball very well. They've played at high levels, and so yeah, that's what that is. And they represent this area, but there's kids coming from the coal regions or York County or all over the place. The parents dedicate a lot of time into kind of getting their kids to these AAU practices and games, and this is the top one in our area for sure.
It's based in Harrisburg here.
It's based in Harrisburg. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Very good.
Yep. So that's that, and we thank them for their support. And again, congratulations and best wishes to newly hired Central Dauphin boys basketball coach Seth Leonard. We're going to get him on the show, and we're going to try to do a dual kind of duo. What's the word I'm thinking of, Bill? Put it on This and That and Linglestown Gazette Sports at the same time. So I'm tired, Bill. Words are kind of eluding me here.
That's okay. What's anything going on next week?
On This and That?
Yeah, This and That. Yeah.
We have time. No, I don't. Maybe Coach Leonard. Coach Leonard might come on. Or unless we can get one of those. Maybe John Jeem. Maybe John Jeem or Najim. I'll tell you who it was actually a friend of ours, a mutual friend of ours that we talk to, we communicate with on a pretty regular basis, who told me she's pretty sure it's Najim. So Najim, okay. I'm gonna find out for sure. The one thing you don't want to screw up is somebody's name. You know what I mean? Well, the thing to do is just ask John, how do you say your name, John? That's the way you do it for sure. All right, Bill, thank you. Yep, you're welcome. Yeah, we'll make sure we get another good show for the folks next Wednesday or Thursday in all likelihood. Very good. All right. Yep. Have a good night, everybody. Thanks, everybody. Bye.